Going. All right, so
Excellent, thank you.
our company, Community Financials, hi, my name is Russell Munns. I'm the founder of Community Financials, and thanks for inviting me to talk with your community today. Back in 2001, left the Army as a captain and joined a real estate company back in Connecticut, where I started off as a condo manager and then grew to become an owner and the president of the company, and grew that business to a staff of 41. And I know how important it is to have great accounting in order to do property management and condo management and community management. So I left that business and started to focus exclusively on providing financial management for communities nationwide, and moved from Connecticut to the center of the country. And we're working with clients from the state of Washington all the way down to South Carolina, up to Maryland, and all around the country, helping people, either communities that want to have a degree of separation between the management company who does full management and the accounting, or having, we've got a community that has an on-site manager and we do the accounting, and then we also have a community that wants to go self-manage, and we do this. We provide the support for communities to go self-manage. So there's all kinds of different scenarios, but the only thing that we provide is accounting for homeowner associations and condo communities nationwide. I've got, we're unique in that we offer two different software programs, which are the top two software programs in the industry for HOAs and condos for doing accounting and the property management. So there's a lot of additional functionality in the software that we offer. And if you chose to either hire a manager directly or to use a third-party manager, they could also log into the software themselves, run reports themselves, and use some of that additional functionality like work order tracking or service request tracking, or violations tracking and things like that. Also, on-site staff we could provide that access for them as well. So the main things we do are help associations collect funds by, you guys assess monthly, so either send out monthly statements or a coupon book, however you guys do business now, that gets sent out. Owners have the option of paying online through ACH. If they wanted to, they could also set up payment with a credit card and pay a convenience fee. Also have the ability to pay by check if they mail that to a lockbox, and that gets directly uploaded to the bank operating account. And then also can set up their bank bill pay, obviously, and handle it that way. So we collect all those funds. All of those go into the bank's operating account. We open a separate operating account for community usually. We open a new bank account for that integrates with the lockbox and the online payments. The board has multiple signers from the board. The board has access to view the bank accounts and see the banking online. So you'll be able to see all those deposits coming in and get your bank statements all in one place. All that payment information gets uploaded into our system, and then we use your collection policy to follow enforcing late fees and assessing fines, and then working on late letters and things like that. For the collection of handling bills, we have the vendors mail their bills to our lockbox. They get scanned in. We have an online approval system for boards to review and approve the bills online. Typically, that's the board treasurer and president. And we can also, if you have a manager, the manager would go first. They would approve things after our staff. Then the president and treasurer approve it, so you've got two people looking it over. And then after everybody's approved it, then we process payments several times a week in a prompt way to pay vendors. We can also provide additional logins to other board members if they want to see the bills and run reports of, there's all kinds of functionality to run reports on, how much money did we spend with this vendor for a particular range, or how much money did we spend in this GL code for a range. So it's useful for the board to do some further analysis very quickly rather than rifling through paper boxes. Then we take all that information, we produce the financial reports on a monthly basis. We'll email that to the board and the manager to review. And typically we'll send that, if you're working with the manager, they can look at it first, or we'll send it and work with the board treasurer. And then we go, if there's any edits or questions, our staff will take care of that and make any changes. And then you'll have then plenty of time for your board meetings. So provide a lot of great financial reports. One of my favorites is the comparative income and expense reports that shows a variance off of budget. So you can see when you're spending more than you should have on a line item, and maybe it flags you that you've got to slow down or look into that line item. Additionally, we do bank reconciliation reports, which means that the financial reports and what you have in your bank accounts are actually lined up and accurate. So between those, the bank reconciliation report and the online banking and the access to review and approve all bills, there's complete transparency and control over your money and your expenses. We can also help with handling resale certificates and lender questionnaires when those come in for units, for unit owners, and then also can help with process community mailings, help with newsletters. There's all kinds of additional functionality and tools. We have a partnership with ADP where we provide payroll processing for your on-site staff, and we also have the ability to report owners who are late payers to credit bureaus, and that's another great way of, if you have delinquencies, of reining them in, because nobody wants negative credit score. So lots of different tools. I just want to give an overview of how the service, how the basic service and some of the add-ons that might be interesting. And now I'll open it up to you for questions, and you know what you got, Greg.
Thanks, Russell. That's a great overview. I appreciate it. And Captain, if you have questions, don't let me step on you. Please just jump in as you please.
Okay.
So Russell, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Nope, it's all you, Greg.
Okay. Russell, would you mind just clarifying the accounting methodology that Community Financials implements? Is it accrual-based or cash-based accounting?
Actually, it's up to the association. So we have some smaller associations that want to be on cash, and they're on cash basis. We have others that are on accrual, and then there's others that are on kind of a modified basis. So it depends on what the board wants. If it was me recommending, I'd recommend accrual basis, but it's up to the board.
Yeah, that's definitely our preference. That's one of the reasons why we're looking to replace our current third-party management company is they don't understand accrual accounting, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, that is unfortunate, especially for a larger community like yours. You should be working with somebody that understands what accrual accounting is and how to provide it.
Agreed. Is your software proprietary or is it licensed?
No, it's not proprietary. So there's, in the industry, there are the top two software programs used by management companies nationwide is TOPS software and Caliber software by market share. So we use both of those two software programs that are specifically designed for the HOA and condo industry. And they're the market leaders. They've got the best functionality for boards. And that's what we use. We can offer we offer either one, so boards can take a look and see which one they like better. Maybe some of the interfaces are better on one versus the other for the board. And so off we go. Awesome.
So, as an accountant, one thing that's really important to me is internal controls, especially as we get rid of our third-party accountant and rely almost solely on our internal manager. You touched on workflow just a bit, in terms of who needs to sign off on invoices before they are paid. Would you mind just double-clicking into that a little bit? Like, what would you require of our manager in terms of how he submits invoices for payment? Is that done electronically? Yeah. Is there a Dropbox or a shared drive utilized? And,
sure.
And lastly, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Finish your question.
No, my last part was going to be, and I don't mean to fire these questions at you, but so one thing I'm trying to accomplish in this restructuring is kind of pulling the board members out of the weeds and just kind of ensuring accountability and transparency. And so ideally, we wouldn't want board members to authorize invoices. We want to put that responsibility on the manager.
Okay.
However, I do understand the importance of having a second pair of eyes. So I'm just trying to get a better understanding of the workflow and the authorizations if board members are not going to provide that responsibility, that function.
Sure. So two different, two-part question. So the workflow for your manager is, first we have a letter that we can mail out to all of your vendors. The vendor, and it'll update the address for the vendors to remit to. So once that takes effect, they'll be mailing the bills directly to us, so your manager doesn't have to spend time doing that. If you do, the manager can also pile all the bills into an envelope and mail them to the lockbox initially before that transition happens. Additionally, he could email in PDFs of the bills and it goes directly into our lockbox for the online approval. So that's the first part of your question. That's how it gets in, how the invoices get into the approval system. Secondly, there are a number of workflows we can use. So we could have the manager approve all bills, and if you wanted to, typically it's the manager and a board treasurer looks over the bills after the board manager does, after the manager does, just to kind of double check things. So if you wanted to, we could do, it could be the treasurer, it could be the president. We could set it up so that it's only bills over a certain dollar amount that the board looks at and has to get involved with. But I think it's, I agree. Usually it's only one or two board members that are involved in approving bills after a manager. And that's typically because they want to have that overview and oversight of what's being paid. But they don't have to. If you trust your manager, you can just have the manager review it. And if the board wants to, they can log in and look at bills in the system. We can set them up with review access only so that they can see that. And then they're also going to be able to see the bank account online and review any payments that go out or monies that come in. So however you want to set it up, we can set up the workflow to accommodate that.
Fantastic. I know on the brochure, it says that the financial statements will be prepared at the earliest between the 15th and the 19th of a month. Is that the soonest that Community Financials can provide the statements? And the reason why I ask is... No,
that's typical. I mean, I've got a 663 unit community with 3 cost centers, and we're doing them by like the 8th of the month. So
got it.
But so if you need to have it sooner, we can do it sooner. Of course, it depends on getting bank statements in a timely way, and any investment accounts or anything else, so we can get it all taken care of.
Fantastic. Speaking of bank statements, you did mention that you would open up banking relationships on our behalf. Is that what you require? Or, for example, we have local banks that we've already established. Would Community Financial require us to reestablish those relationships with your banks? So
it's a good question. We're in, we work also right now with BB&T, but for our systems, we open one operating bank account that tie into the online payment system and the lockbox, because those are provided by a bank. So all of the payments that are online and all of the checks that go to a lockbox, those are going to a particular bank's servicer. So that we open a bank account for the association that is an operating account.
I understand.
The board members are the signers on the account and have to sign, the paperwork, and the board members also, before the account's open, and the board members also have access to view the bank account online. So
Got
if
it.
you have additional banks that you have your reserve funds in locally or other things, and you want to transfer some monies over, we can do that too. But it's, there's probably 7 banks nationally that cater to this industry. And so they have robust data transfers and integrations with the top software companies, 2 of which that we use. So, it just helps with lockboxes, online function payments, and our staff to be able to see, and to be able to see all the funds in the accounting software with having it set up that way.
Got it. I understand, and that makes sense. You said you can work with B&T, but are they your primary bank, or
They're not.
a different institution?
They're not the primary bank, but we do work with them. Our primary bank is a bank I've been using since 2012, and I can send you some additional information which shows the functionality for the board and talks about who that bank is and why we chose them.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
I had a question.
Sure, go ahead, Catherine.
I had a question about the customer support. So is that, what does that entail if we need to do after hours for any financial issue that we might have, questions, or if somebody from the community has questions, like how do you structure that?
So because we're in multiple time zones, we usually handle customer questions at all kinds of different times of day and night. That being said, our typical hours, we mostly handle a lot of the questions through email. It's very fast customer support. One of the main issues, I'm smiling because one of the main issues with all the management companies and why, we gain customers is most management companies do a very poor job of customer service. They do a poor job of, providing support to owners and boards with questions, especially around accounting issues. So
Yes.
There's 2 ways that handle this. First off, we're going to provide online access for all the owners to see their account. So they'll be able to see what they owe, a breakdown of what they owe, and a history of the payments that they've made. And that builds over time with the use of the system. So a lot of those questions are cleared up right away just through the owners having that ability to see the information themselves. And then, we provide, that's one of the main things that we need to do is provide great customer service. So we talk to, I was texting with the new manager, Maryland, last night at 7:00 my time with information for them at their board meeting. So we want to provide great customer service, and that's it's not the norm in the industry, but that's the norm for.
Mm-hmm. That's helpful, and I value that very much. So it sounds like you're flexible and you'll be, accessible if we need you on the night of a board meeting. But is there like another number that if you're not available that we can call and talk to someone, and not a voicemail after hours? Do you have something like that set up?
So Catherine, I would say this, typically, and you mentioned for a board member, so for a board meeting, so if a community wants to have the accountant on speakerphone at their board meeting to go over questions, we can set that up. It's not the normal, it's not what most people want. Typically, the treasurer will have a conversation with our staff the day before or the day of the board meeting, get any questions they have answered, and then, just go to the board meeting. But if the board would like to have one of our representatives, on call for the meeting, then that's something we can arrange. It depends on the service level that you want, or it's an add-on to set that up. But I think that's what you were referring to, right?
Yep, that's helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Russell, a related question. So I understand that, basically you can make your staff available whenever there's a question, but, in regular, in regular operations, when there's not necessarily anything wrong with the financials or questions from the board members, the accountant of the board just wants to, go over the financials with the person preparing them. Is that something that's routine? So, for example, when you issue the financials, is there typically a phone call or an email or a discussion between your staff and the board, or is it just as needed?
Good question. It's typically the property accountant is going to, we have one property accountant who works with your particular community. So they get to know your board, they get to know your owners, and they get to know your financial reports. So that person is going to interface typically with the board treasurer, sometimes the board president, and answer any questions, send the financial reports to, it could be them or it could be to the manager first, and go through the questions, back and forth via email or over phone call. So it really depends, but that's during during typical business hours, and that's how, that's handled.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just a handful more questions. I won't keep you much longer.
That's all right, Greg.
Payroll processing is something that we will need. We have 2 direct employees. Mm-hmm. On the brochure, it says TBD, but you also mentioned it during the presentation. So could you clarify where you stand with payroll processing currently?
Yeah, we are partners with ADP. So what I do is I take, I need to know the number of full-time employees, you said 2, and then whether they're paid weekly, bi-weekly, what their frequency of payment is. And then I'm going to talk with, I'm going to get you a price quote from ADP. So that's not included in our price quote because many communities we work with don't have direct employees, but I'll get you a quote for ADP to provide the payroll processing. And, I recommend that whether you choose us or not, that you use a third-party payroll processor instead of relying on the management company to do payroll, because I have been witness to and experienced the issues in payroll and liability that comes from that. And for the community and for the management company, it's just not the regular focus of most management companies. So I would recommend that. So that's my encouragement to you, but what I would get from you is just the frequency of payroll, and then I'll get you a price quote.
Got it. Yeah, our folks are paid bi-monthly. It's not complicated. We don't have extraordinary benefits or anything like that. So it's pretty straightforward. But with that said, I'm very familiar with ADP, just in my normal course of business. I know they're not the cheapest, especially with small businesses. Are you open to working with other payroll processors? Or is that not an option?
I am, but I get, because we're a national company, I get pretty good pricing for payroll. So
Got it.
It's just versus full management, my fee and the payroll fee is very small. So.
I highly appreciate that and value that. Last couple questions. I noticed you offer management software training and consulting. Could you just elaborate on what's involved or covered in the software training, and then what type of consulting do you offer?
Sure. So that's mostly, and I've updated my proposal to explain that a little bit better, but there's additional functionality in the software that is for handling work orders or service, requests or violations management. And so for your manager or for a board member who wants to utilize that functionality in the software, we can provide that, training. For basic things on, approving bills online and using the bank account online, or viewing a web portal, things like that, or owner portal, all of that is included in our fee. This is just additional, using additional functionality in the software that a community may want to use.
Got it.
One other add-on on there, and I don't know whether it would be applicable to your community, but it could be. But it's the after-hours emergency call handling service. So if you don't have that and you want that, the way we set that up is, getting a list of vendors that help you after hours and setting up a relay system to relay to them, and then notify a board member, the property manager, by a text message to keep them in the loop of what's happening.
Got it. Does the after hours call people, are they more or less routing phone calls, or do they attempt to kind of manage the situation?
They do
telephonically.
They do a little bit of both. So
Okay.
It's all about, I went through probably 4 different call centers in my 18 years in this industry. So this one is by far the best. It comes down to setting up a good call script, kind of and call handling. So of which vendors to use, how to route calls that are not emergency calls, and email them to the manager the next morning or whatever. But it's a good system.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. It's very timely and relevant to the issues that we're experiencing with our current management company. Last question, because one of my last 2 was regarding your after hours call center. My last question is, we do perform an annual audit. We hire a local audit firm for the engagement.
Great, I recommend that.
Fantastic. Is that working with the auditor, facilitating audit requests and whatnot? Is that part of your typical fee, or how is that handled by community?
That's part of our typical fee. And what I would do is also I'd provide a view-only access to the online payment system to the auditor, so that they can just log in and see all the bills paid in our online payment system.
Awesome. Thank you.
It usually saves them time, and it saves the community money. So your audits should be cheaper and faster.
Yeah, exactly. Last request, Russell. Is it possible to send over sample reports, financial statements? Of course, they could be either black-lined or completely false data, just so something that I can see what we will receive on a monthly basis.
Absolutely, yes. And now, because I have 2 different softwares, the report formatting is a little bit different in each one, but I'll send you a report format for one software, and they're going to be similar. They may look a little different, but they're going to be similar.
Got it. Well, thank you. Captain, do you have any other questions?
That is it. That's really helpful. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Greg, thanks for your time today.
Yeah, thank you, Russell. I can tell you quite honestly, I think you have a great product. I'm very impressed by it. It's exactly what we're looking for. We do have to do our due diligence and interview other companies, and of course, garner buy-in from the other board members. But we will definitely follow up with next steps.
Terrific. I'll send you another thing which will help maybe with decision. I'll send you some additional information after the call that addresses some of your questions in more detail. And I look forward, I'll get you a price quote from ADP just so you have that. And I look forward to any follow-up questions that you have. Thank you very much for inviting me to participate in board's research.
Yes, thank you. Oh, last question. If the board members who could not attend, when they want to watch the recorded presentation, will it be as simple as dialing into the link that you provided?
I'm going to provide the link to the recording after this in a follow-up email to you.
Awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, Catherine. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.